I, 22-year-old female, have a friend, a 23-year-old female, that I met in sophomore year of high school. We'll call her Katie. Last Saturday, we went to a party for Valentine's Day. It was an anti-Valentine's Day party. Anyone on campus was allowed to come. It got pretty packed with people I didn't even know. I'm assuming students brought friends along. It started at 9, and by 11:30, I could barely see in front of me. I'm a nursing student. I had homework to do and then class at 6 a.m. on Monday. So a Saturday party wasn't my idea, but I didn't want her to go alone. So I went. A little past midnight, I started to feel the alcohol, and I know my limits. Katie does not. Once I started to feel it, I told her we needed to go. I tried to get her out of that party for almost an hour. I even tried to carry her. She got violent and hit me in the face and pushed me away. Called me all sorts of names. She ran upstairs to an empty room, and I tried to get her out for almost another hour. It was reaching 2 a.m. I needed to get home to go to sleep. So I went outside for air, and I called her boyfriend and waited almost 40 minutes for him to get there. When he got there and I was sure she was safe, I went back home. From Sunday to Wednesday, I was calling her nonstop. She wasn't on campus. She wouldn't answer the door, and I was getting worried that she was in the hospital for drinking too much. That brings me to yesterday. Her boyfriend called me and told me that she was attacked while I was outside. I again went over to her place, and her boyfriend answered, and she screamed at me to get out, that I left her alone for this to happen. I immediately broke down crying and apologizing. I asked her if she reported it, and she screamed at me to get out and to never speak to her again. I feel so bad that I left her upstairs alone. Maybe I should have stayed. I never wanted this to happen. She won't speak to me. I stopped calling and texting her because I'm thinking she's overwhelmed. I'm so confused and hurt that this happened to her. Did I try hard enough to get her out? What do I do from here? Do I wait for her to come to me? I didn't want this to happen. We always said we'd never leave each other alone at a party, which is why I called her boyfriend. If this was a stranger who got too drunk, I would ask if they needed help getting home and if I could call someone. Update, not really an update. As a lot of you said, how did a random guy get into the room but I couldn't if it was locked? I am starting to think she may have cheated. Maybe there was a creep already in the room? I genuinely have no clue. There are so many things that could have happened in the 40-minute window, where I wasn't knocking on the door and trying to get her to come with me so I can get her home. I no longer feel guilty per se because she is an adult, and as you guys said, after she attacked me, I still tried to get her outside. Also note, this was not on Valentine's Day. This was a party that happened 2 days after. In my first sentence, it does say Valentine's Day, so I'm sorry for the confusion. I just wanted to clear that up because people were asking why she wasn't with her boyfriend. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk. Ultimately, Katie is responsible for herself and should not have gotten drunk. It's very unfortunate that she was attacked, but that has zero to do with you. You did your best to remove her from the situation, and even called her boyfriend and waited for him to get there. Katie wants someone to blame, and for now that seems to be you. Hopefully she'll change her behavior for the better, acknowledge her mistake, accept who is truly to blame, and apologize for what she said and did to you. Comment 2. Not the jerk. Comment 2. Not. She is, in theory, a grown-ass woman. You were not responsible for her getting so drunk that she lost all logic that it was time to leave. No, it is not her fault that she was attacked, but it also is not your fault. You told her you were leaving. You took extra time to get her to leave too. You even called her boyfriend and waited for him to arrive. You did all you could. Do not feel guilty. She made the choice to stay. I hope she is at least smart enough to file rap charges. Now, for the update, thank you for sticking around for more of what's been going on. So, after the whole mess with Katie, things took a turn for the worse. Her boyfriend, the one I called that night, he's been acting weird. He came over to my place the other day, looking all nervous and stuff. He said he needed to talk. Turns out he and Katie had a huge fight right before the party. He thought she was cheating on him, and they were on a break that night. That's why he wasn't with her on Valentine's Day. Now, I'm not one to gossip, but this was big. He said he saw texts on her phone from some guy, and he was sure she was with him at the party. That's why he took so long to get there when I called. He was out driving around trying to cool off. He felt guilty, saying maybe if they hadn't fought, she wouldn't have been alone. But here's where it gets crazy. I was talking to some other friends who were at the party, and they said they saw Katie going upstairs with some guy, laughing and all. They thought she was just having fun, but nobody knew who the guy was. It's like he vanished into thin air after everything went down. I've been feeling all sorts of emotions. Angry, sad, confused. I mean, Katie's my friend, but she hit me, and now all this, it's a lot to take in. I've been trying to focus on my nursing studies, but it's hard with all this drama. Then yesterday, I got a call from the campus police. They wanted to talk to me about the party. I told them everything I knew about trying to get Katie out and calling her boyfriend. They said they're looking into it, but there's not much to go on. No one knows who the guy was, and Katie's not talking to anyone, not even the police. I've been thinking about what you all said, about how it's not my fault, and I'm starting to believe it. I did what I could that night. I can't control what Katie does or who she's with. I'm just trying to be a good friend. But it's like no matter what I do, it's never enough. And then just when I thought things couldn't get more messed up, Katie's boyfriend showed up at my door again. He was crying, saying Katie broke up with him for real this time. She told him she needed space to figure things out. He was a mess, and I didn't know what to do. I let him in, and we talked for hours. He kept saying he wished he could go back and change things. It's been a rough few days, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water with all my schoolwork and this whole situation. I haven't heard from Katie, and I'm not sure I will. But I've decided I'm not going to reach out anymore. If she wants to talk, she knows where to find me. I've learned a lot from this, about friendships and boundaries. It's tough, but I guess that's just how life goes sometimes. You try to do the right thing, and it still gets messy. Thank you for reading. My mom cheats on my dad and treats him like dirt, so I help him empty their bank account and watch her world crumble. This is an old throwaway account that Reddit won't let me delete. I'm a teenager, uncomfortable sharing my age. My parents have been married for 20 years, but there's definitely been a lot of tension between them lately, mainly because of my mom and her choices. Last week, I woke up at about 4 a.m. to my mom just screaming at my dad. I don't remember everything she said, but I remember she said things like, "You're so mean to me, you ignore me, you don't love me." My dad didn't yell back. I learned later that day after I came home from school that the argument happened because my dad was snoring. Everyone was sober. I can't make this stuff up. I was really hurt by what happened that morning because I know my dad loves my mom to bits and pieces and would do anything to protect her. My mom, on the other hand, ignores my dad when she comes home from work. I've seen her greet the dog and walk right past him without even saying hello. She stayed out with her friends until 2 in the morning, and sometimes she's come home completely drunk. I vented to my dad about it, and he told my mom that I knew what had happened. She tried to apologize for waking me up, and that she'd just woken up grumpy, and she hugged me. I snapped at her, pushed her away, and started yelling at her about how what she said was the most hypocritical stuff I'd ever heard in my life. My dad quickly jumped in and tried to get me to calm down. My mom didn't apologize about it. She didn't even say anything. She stood there and looked really amused by the whole situation. I feel horrible about yelling at her, and it's gotten to the point now where I hardly want to talk to her. She seems to have completely moved past it already, and I'm seriously beginning to doubt she took anything I said seriously. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk, but just keep in mind that you probably don't have the full story. Yes, it may have been about snoring in that moment, but it's also possible there's a much bigger issue here that you aren't aware of. The fact that your dad defended her while she stood there tells me that maybe dad knows he messed up somewhere in this marriage, and mom's anger, although misplaced, may be justified. Comment 2. Not the asshole. Also, she has the typical behavior of someone cheating. Staying out and coming back hammered, not caring for her partner, gaslighting, the fact that she wants to feel neglected over minor stuff. Heard it hundreds of times on this subreddit, but this is something kinda tricky because getting involved in this affair can maybe lead to major changes in yours and your dad's life. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for an update. So things have gone from bad to worse. My mom, out of nowhere, decided to pack her bags and leave. Just like that. She said she needed space and time to think. Dad was a wreck, and I was just standing there, not even sure how to feel. She didn't say where she was going, didn't say when she'd be back. She just left. A few days later, we got a call from the hospital. Mom had been in an accident. Nothing life-threatening, but she was banged up pretty bad. Dad and I rushed over. Seeing her in that hospital bed, all bruised up, something in me just broke. I couldn't stay mad at her. She looked so small, so vulnerable. I forgave her, right there, even though a part of me screamed that I was being weak, that I was just desperate for things to go back to normal. But that's when the real bomb dropped. While we were at the hospital, a man showed up. He was the driver of the other car, and guess what? He claimed he was my mom's boyfriend. I thought I was going to throw up. Dad just stood there, pale as a ghost. The guy had the nerve to say he was worried about her, that they had been seeing each other for months. Dad didn't say a word. He just walked out of the room. I followed him, leaving Mom and her boyfriend behind. We didn't talk about it. Not then, not on the way home, not ever. It was like this silent agreement to just ignore it. But it was eating me up inside. The next day, Dad did something I never thought he would. He drained their joint bank account, every single penny. He said it was for security, that we didn't know what Mom was capable of now. I didn't know what to think. Was this really the right thing to do? It felt like we were the ones doing something unforgivable now. Mom got discharged and came home a few days later, limping and bruised. She found out about the bank account. The fight that followed was epic. Accusations flying, stuff getting broken. And in the middle of all that, Mom said she was leaving for good. She said she didn't need Dad's money, that she had someone who could take care of her. I've never seen Dad cry before that day. He begged her to stay, said he'd do anything, that we could work it out. But she was done. She packed her bags again, and this time she left with her boyfriend. Dad was a mess, and I was left to pick up the pieces. It's been a week since she left. Dad's trying to act like everything's normal, but it's not. I'm trying to be there for him, but it's hard. I'm angry, I'm hurt, and I feel like I've lost both my parents, but life goes on, I guess. Thanks for reading. My blind date hides she has a kid and I'm not interested. So I ghost her, but when she becomes my boss, I learn to play nice and we start over. I, 31-year-old male, have been single for several years now, a fact that a friend of mine, Lily, 34 years old female, was aware of. I've always been passionate about my current job. During my training years, I became familiar with Lily, who admired how much I wanted to join the field, and we have been friends ever since. A few months ago, she reached out to me, inquiring if I was still single, and mentioned she has become friends with Sarah, 29 years old female, who had moved from a different state about a year ago and is in the same field. She asked if I would want to go on a date with her during the weekend. I didn't think much of it and agreed to meet Sarah over the weekend. After having a conversation with her, I was impressed by her intelligence, charisma, and the care she had for her patients. However, as the conversation went on, I discovered she had a child, which is a deal-breaker for me. But I was already in the conversation, and the statement about her daughter came as an off-topic, rather than me specifically asking for it. So I tried to listen to her without showing any change in my expression and continued the evening. Although I knew the date was over, I tried my best to keep the mood light, because I felt so guilty for wasting her time. Not to mention how she might have had to arrange for a babysitter and then go home to take care of her daughter, who probably was already missing her. In the days following, Sarah messaged me a few times, expressing how much she enjoyed our dinner and attempting to engage in further conversation. Initially, I responded with as much positivity and professionalism as I could, but eventually, I had to clarify that despite enjoying our conversation, I preferred to maintain a professional relationship. I even helped her during a staffing shortage by sending some of my best interns to assist her. Although I appear sociable and confident, much of it is the result of my training. I get easily flustered and awkward, and this whole situation with Sarah just made me feel so bad that it led me to start ghosting Lily. A few months later, I saw Lily again for a work thing where she confronted me about my avoidance, suspecting something went wrong on the date. I said it was just due to work and staffing shortages, a response she clearly didn't believe, but she didn't press further due to the professional setting we were in. She suggested we meet after work to discuss it further. Reluctantly, I met Lily at a coffee shop, where I initially dodged the issue. However, she realized I was just avoiding the issue, so she said she just wanted to understand what happened and doesn't care why. So I told her that Sarah had a child and I would never date a single mother, something that Lily already was very likely aware of. She didn't show any change in her expression and just changed the topic to something else. However, I am still a bit mad at her for making me look like a jerk to Sarah, who probably would have been friends with me and an amazing addition to my contact list professionally, if not for this messed up date. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're the idiot and you have severe main character syndrome. Lily likely doesn't pay that much attention to your dating preferences and is not as invested in your child-free status as you are. So looking for ways for her to be a jerk is not productive. Sarah was probably a little bewildered. It can be like that when you think a date went well and the other person is like, meh, pass. I think you should just give it time and be positive and professional. She likely already knows the real reason from Lily and will get over it. Comment 2. No idiots here. I think you are majorly overthinking and stressing yourself out as a result. Has Lily treated you differently since you disclosed your feelings about dating single mothers? Your post doesn't indicate any ill intent from Lily. You are the one avoiding Lily, not the other way around. You went on one date. There's no obligation from either side to continue if there are no romantic feelings. You can still be friends with Sarah and Lily despite the date going nowhere. Now, for the update. Thanks for checking in again. So, the other day, I'm at work, and guess who walks in? Sarah. My stomach dropped. She's there for a meeting with some of the higher-ups, and I'm trying to look busy, hoping she won't see me. But of course she does. She waves, and I have to wave back, all while feeling like a complete tool. Turns out she's been promoted. She's now in charge of a new project that's directly linked to my department. Great, right? Now I have to work with her regularly. I can't avoid her anymore, and I'm kicking myself for how I handled things. Later that day, I get a call from Lily. She's heard about Sarah's promotion and wants to know how I'm going to deal with it. I can tell she's not just asking as a friend. She's worried about the professional implications. I assure her I'll keep things strictly business, but I can hear the doubt in her voice. The next day, Sarah asks to have lunch with me to discuss the project. I agree, thinking it's a good chance to set things straight. We sit down, and she's all business at first. But then she mentions her daughter's birthday is coming up. She's not trying to guilt me or anything, but it hits me hard. I realize I've been so caught up in my own rules about dating that I didn't consider her feelings. I'm about to apologize when my phone rings. It's an emergency at the hospital. One of my interns messed up and a patient is in critical condition. I have to leave immediately. Sarah understands, and I rush out, feeling even worse. The situation at the hospital is bad. The patient's family is furious. The intern is a wreck, and I'm in charge of damage control. It's a long night, but we managed to stabilize the patient. The family is still upset, but they're grateful for our efforts. The intern is shaken, but I give them a pep talk about learning from mistakes. It's a reminder that everyone's human, and we all need a bit of grace sometimes. The next day, I'm exhausted, but there's a sense of accomplishment from handling the crisis. I decide it's time to face my own personal mess. I call Sarah and ask if we can meet again. This time, it's not about work. We meet at the same coffee shop where I met Lily. I apologize to Sarah for how I acted after our date. I tell her I was unfair and that I let my own issues get in the way of seeing her as a person, not just a potential date with a deal breaker. She's quiet for a moment. Then she tells me she appreciates my honesty. She admits she was hurt, but also says she understands that everyone has their own deal breakers. We agree to start fresh, as colleagues and maybe even as friends. It's a relief, and I can see a weight lifted off her shoulders too. We shake hands, and it feels like a new beginning. I leave the coffee shop feeling lighter than I have in months. I shoot Lily a text, telling her things are sorted with Sarah. She replies with a simple thumbs up, but I can tell she's relieved too. Work goes on, and Sarah and I collaborate on the project. It's going well, and there's a newfound respect between us. I'm learning a lot from her, and I think she's picking up a few things from me too. In the end, I'm glad I faced the issue head on. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And who knows? Maybe this whole ordeal has taught me a thing or two about being more open-minded. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!